Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Lethbridge-Stewart as he travels up his own time stream, and as he arrives at episode 399. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I've never heard the phrase travels up his own time stream.
Oh yeah, why not?
Travels up his own time stream. I suppose it works.
What else would you call that?
Swims up his own time stream.
Paddles up his own
Paddles
time
up his own time stream.
What happens when a man goes through his own portal?
Did you guys have a good week?
Yeah, not bad.
Do anything fun?
Not really.
Do anything not fun?
I was sick for part of it. That was
That's
not fun.
We went to Kansas City for the 48-hour film project film awards. We had made the top 10 with the film that we did, and so Dave and I went over and we picked up our award for best choreography.
Woo!
So not a dance number in it, but
Congratulations.
Thank you. But no, I mean, I think we sort of talked about it here, but I think it, as you said, it's probably because of how it was choreographed, as in how we blocked it and edited it and set it up. But
kind of like fight choreography.
Yeah. So
even though there wasn't a fight scene either.
We picked up we picked up that award this weekend, but that was fun. It was nice to go see. I hadn't seen any of the films. They'd had screenings for them, a few weeks back, and hadn't had a chance to go see any of them. But I think there was 28 entries. Well, there were 29, but one didn't make it. And then they went and showed the top 10 on Sunday. So
we were part of the top 10, and we got the official Best Choreography Award. And then what were the two audience choice
We
ones?
also picked up audience choice, although we didn't get physical awards for those. But we were chosen for Best Music, and we were chosen for Best Editing by the audience. So
And top 10.
Yeah. So
And choreography.
We're still doing something right.
Absolutely.
I think the next one we need to do would be a musical with a big dance number. See what happens. Maybe we'll get best
fight
action
scene.
sequence.
I finished Iron Fist season 2.
What'd you think?
It was pretty good.
It's got a pretty good audience score on
I like it.
Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a lot better than the first season.
It is a lot better than the first season.
I like how they ended it, though. If nothing else, it's worth watching it just to see the bold direction they go with the things they do. I don't want to say more than that in fear of spoilers.
So is there going to be Defenders season 2 is kind of the next...
No.
Well, I guess Daredevil's been
Daredevil
announced now. But
Daredevil season 3, Jessica Jones season 3 has been announced now. Punisher season 2. No, in fact, I was reading an article the other day where Defenders isn't even on any schedule or radar or anything right now.
Really?
So,
Well, and the state the heroes are kind of in would be a bit more of a challenge to get them in place unless they do something which I wouldn't want to see them do. Is kind of like a Civil War type thing.
you guys do anything else this week? Sean, did you see anything?
I saw The Predator. Did I talk about that?
Yes, you did.
Okay, then no.
I watched Vegas Vacation this week, but I've seen that 100 times probably. So
We started watching The Goldbergs. Have you guys watched that show?
I've seen a few episodes.
Dave raves about that
It's
show.
hilarious. We're only like 2 episodes in, but it's really funny. And it's all sorts of nostalgia, especially for folks like us. I highly recommend it. Based on 2 episodes.
Cool. Well, what do we got in the news, Keith?
Well, a new trailer dropped. Can we call this one a trailer? Is that okay?
This one's actually a trailer.
Are you sure it's not a teaser?
Yeah, no, this one's a trailer. This one didn't anger me, so it must be a trailer.
But I thought normal trailers angered you.
The ones they call trailers that aren't trailers, yeah.
You said last time that even trailers anger you.
Well, if they do too many of them.
What did you guys think of the trailer?
I liked it.
It's a trailer.
It didn't anger me.
It didn't give me much more information, but it was good. It was good to see more.
A bit more clips and action and seen.
This is the
some of
first
her
one
high
where
energy.
This is the first one where I feel like you showed me, hey, Doctor Who's coming back. Everything else has been foreplay. This has been like, hey, Doctor Who's coming back. So I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm ready for it.
I thought it was good. I haven't watched it like a million times, so it didn't excite me that much.
I think I watched it twice.
Yeah, I think I watched it 3 times.
I've only seen it twice.
I can name that tune and sound like a competition.
Part of that
Again, I like the tune in it.
we
A good tune for the
it does
for the
have a
theme of this. Yeah,
maybe it's because Moffat kind of ruined us on all of the. We were so. Did you see that one part at the minute 20 mark when this happened? We think this is going to. We don't have to dissect these things because it's probably not there.
I think that's the nice thing is you haven't even seen a lot of people dissecting the online because I think they realize what are you going to look for? Everything is supposed to be news.
Yeah,
so.
we don't know anything,
Yeah.
so there's nothing returning. It's really nothing in context other than look, here's the Doctor and she's awesome.
Yep.
As opposed to last trailer when we were going, the Movellans are back.
Right.
And they were. I was right.
Well, moving on to news, they have also announced some new 13th Doctor books, including The Good Doctor by Juno Dawson, Molten Heart by Una McCormick, and Combat Magics by Steve Cole. So each cover, which are gorgeous, feature one of the new friends. So I don't know if each story will focus specifically on their relationship or if it'll be all 3 of them. They don't really give that information in the blurbs.
54 years of Doctor Who and nobody has used The Good Doctor before now?
That's a good
Apparently
point.
not.
It took an ABC series for somebody to get the
Yeah.
idea.
Well, wasn't it a Neil Simon play first?
Was it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. What? Every time somebody has a question, somebody goes, "Got to go to look it up."
Imdb Keith.
I'm pretty sure it was.
What? What else? Sorry, I'm just moving through.
Glenn's chomping at the
Well, I
bit
don't know.
to get through
I don't
the
have
news.
much reaction for these. Yay, there's a trailer. Yay, there's some books.
More merchandise I can't afford.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
More stuff for the book read. The Good Read Book
That's
Club.
the-
Okay,
that's
now
the-
you got to
that's
put
the good
that spin
thing
on
about
it. There you
Yeah.
go.
More fodder for the book club.
Yes. Well, and speaking of more fodder for
I
the
think
book
my
club,
thing is though, every time they release a new book, I lament the fact that I still have like a whole catalog of Doctor Who books I haven't read yet.
yeah, it's,
And I keep thinking, oh, quit adding to my pile. I'll never get done before I die.
There's a veritable mountain.
oh yes. Well, Candy Jar Books has announced another book to add to your pile. And I think we're going to get to this one.
Yeah, but I'm all caught up with I'm all caught up with the
Lethbridge-Stewart
Lethbridge-Stewart stuff.
books?
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I am caught up now.
Yes.
Fear of the Web comes out soon, but
In about a week, you will not be caught up
Right,
again.
exactly.
But for right now, you're caught
although
up.
I am considering reading it when that one comes out, even though we won't be able to get to a review of that one till down the line. I'm considering reading that one.
It's probably not a bad idea. It'd be nice to be ahead of the game for a while.
and then you got to make sure you reread it or remember.
Right.
what
That's
was
the
in it.
problem with me reading it ahead of time. Then I would have to reread it again because I would be, I don't remember.
Of course,
what
you could
happened.
probably just skim it if you read it once.
Yeah, that's true.
When you reread it. Well, they have announced actually new Bright short story collection, its second Lethbridge-Stewart short story competition, and a reprint of Havoc Files 2. So, the short story collection, the Havoc Files Loose Ends,
That's the name of it.
is a collection of short stories written by arrange editor Andy Frankomallen.
Woo!
So a whole collection of short stories written by Andy, tying up loose ends. How fantastic is that?
That's great.
And I know he has taken things we've said and added them to a list of loose ends. Now, if stories got written around those, I'm not sure.
What I like about a series is when they recognize that, hey, we've got a few things that need to be tidied up, and they tidy them up. You see a lot of series out there that don't do that. They just kind of drop the ball. Now, I like to think sometimes Andy thinks, oh, these guys realize there's a loose end, so we got to tie it up. But we may have a little part in that as well. Although I think he goes back and he looks at stuff going, oh, wait a minute, we didn't really kind of finish that up. But I think we've kind of lent to that as well.
I think we have also.
Especially when we come up with something he didn't think of. Oh, yeah.
The anthology will feature stories focusing on a variety of characters regularly seen through all the books.
Okay.
Not a lot of details on that. And, of course, Loose Ends will initially only be available in a limited edition and is up for pre-order right now.
Woohoo!
Go to the competition news. What's that all about?
Oh, the competition. Because of the success of the first one, they're doing a second round with another competition. This one will be open to both those in the UK and outside for submissions. So you can obviously go find more details about what you need to do to try to find out how to take part in this by going to Candy Jar's website.
Forward me that link, will you?
Yes. Entry fee is £5. Just so you know.
Oh, I don't know if you can afford that, Sean.
Probably not, but
Don't forget inflation and conversion and Brexit.
I'll go shake some money out of the couch cushions.
Minimum of 3,000 words.
That probably shouldn't be a problem.
And the number of copies Havoc Files 2 is getting is 50 additional reprints.
Yay!
So if you didn't get your copy, rush out now. And our last bit of news comes from Big Finish. They have announced a series of audio stories featuring Missy, as played by Michelle Gomez.
Woo!
The Missy Chronicles is what it will be called, I believe. I'm not going to give a whole lot of other details because, go read it. I'm sure there's going to be a trailer soon. And they're going to come out in February 2019.
Cool.
So I'm sure we can expect lots of debauchery and mischief.
Debauchery.
Yeah.
With Missy?
I mean, come on. Actually, what I want now is I want the Masters box set.
Oh, yeah.
I just want all of the Masters to get together in an audio adventure, including Missy, and pull 5 Doctors with it.
So here's a nice little tidbit from it. She's going to encounter the meddling monk.
Ooh.
So that'll be an interesting adventure to see the two of them together. Played by Rufus Hound.
You know who she won't be encountering?
The Doctor.
No.
Herself?
Nope.
Who?
Well, the War Chief. Because it's the same person.
So, yeah.
The monk and
herself.
the monk and the war chief are the same person?
No. The monk and the master are the same person. Or no, the war chief and the master, not the monk.
Now Sean's very confused. Way to go, Glenn.
Ruined my joke, Glenn. I'm just saying, you've never seen them in the room at the same time.
It's true, but I've never been in the same room as Trump, and I'm not Trump.
I don't know
And
if I could prove that.
The master and the monk hadn't been in the same room at the same time up until now.
Yeah, that's true.
But now
Plus,
we
we've
know.
seen the master in the same room with the master. That kind of throws another...
Yeah, it's true. Different faces of the same person in the same room kind of throws a wrench in your plans.
The way the master loves disguises, I guess he could have been all of the villains.
It's true.
All right, do we have any feedback this week?
No feedback this week.
Then that means we can get right into our review of Scary Monsters. Which, by the way, I loved. Go ahead and read the blurb.
Sir Alistair Lethbridge-Stewart is nearing the end of his life and has just buried another old friend. Feeling out of sorts, he is somewhat surprised to find himself in 1981. Some mysterious force has pulled him backwards in time into his own past, an adventure he has only vague memories of. 1981. London. A bomb detonates in a London pub and Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge-Stewart is among the injured. Moscow. A hijacked plane sits on the airport runway and Major Grigory Bugayev. Sure.
Yeah, it's Bugayev.
Bugayev.
Not Boogie Monster. Bugoy.
Oh, but he is.
Leads the assault against the 6 gunmen holding the passengers hostage. These are the triggers that set the 2 military men on an international manhunt. Their investigations converge and uncover a group of terrorists whose roots reach back to sinister Cold War experiments. and something that was unearthed in ancient ruins in the New Mexico desert by one Sophia Montilla and Ann Travers. Terror is a contagion. It means to spread, and humanity is set on doing everything in its power to help it.
Bum, bum, bum!
Sean, you liked this book,
I
too.
liked this book.
I did, too. Lots of layers, lots of confusion.
Lots of confusion.
Good confusion. I've talked about before. There's good confusion and there's bad confusion. If you confuse me through a book, you better, sure as heck, bring it all together. And this book does that.
Yes.
It was right on the verge for me of too much confusion for too long through the book. And right as I got to the frustrated part of why have I been thrown into the deep end, then things started to resolve and those layers started to peel back and things started to make sense. And it was like, oh, okay, now I'm with it. And then it just, yeah.
Now, there was always little nuggets that it would come back to me and I was like, oh, but what are these, well, the bones for one thing. They kept leaving these bones at locations. And I kept thinking, this is going to be important. But all of these people have these psychic powers that manifest in slightly different ways. They all kind of do the same thing, but they all have almost like different ways to channel them. And they kept leaving these bones, and I kept thinking, obviously the powers aren't coming from these bones. You must have these powers. Why are you leaving these bones? Are they calling cards? Are they? And that kept happening. The bones kept getting left, and I kept thinking, this is going to go somewhere. And then there's this lull of no bones for a while, except for we're talking about the bones, obviously, in the desert, which I think must be connected. And then, but they're not leaving this calling card anymore for the longest time. And I'm like, okay, where are the bones? Where's the connection to these bones? Oh,
Bum, bum, bum.
These bones are amplifiers for all of their abilities, which I was like, okay, that was very cool and very clever.
Well, and even earlier on, when you're trying to figure out, okay, this explosion happened, but it didn't. How is this going on? And they lay the hints, and then it just kind of, I don't know about you guys, it just kind of clicked just in it as we were learning the first guy's backstory. I realized, it dawned on me, oh, that's where we're going with this. That's what happened. Okay. That's why it's somebody different.
Well, it's so disconcerting that there's an explosion in a pub. A bomb goes off. And Lethbridge-Stewart gets caught in it. And you're just like, oh, okay. But then the pub's fine. Nobody's hurt. I mean, the windows aren't busted out or anything. It's like there's like nothing happened. And Lethbridge-Stewart has different memories of who the perpetrator may have been. And so that right off the bat was like, what? Yeah. And then we go to the airplane where there's a terrorist hijacking and the major goes in and they kill all the terrorists in a very cool, oh man, this book was cinematic.
Well written.
Oh yeah.
And then, guess what? They weren't terrorists. They were civilians. They were people on the airplane and you just went in and stormed them. And it's just, what? Yeah. What's going on? But then we get that first nugget. We get that backstory and how his mental powers.
That was Vasily, right?
Vasily.
Yeah, Vasily's backstory.
And it was like, okay, I think I'm beginning to see maybe where some of this is going. And then there's a lot more confusion later. And then a wonderful chase scene with the redhead.
Yeah, that's great. I think the one thing that took me a little while to pick up on was the fact that the unit comes in and they're actually blowing up this pub. And I thought, what is going on? Why are they doing that? And it took me a little while to kind of backtrack and realize, oh, this thing was so traumatic. They're going to make it look like it really did happen. But it's a controlled situation where they can, they've got everybody out. They're safe. They can clear the blocks. Oh, wait, people are going to hear this second explosion. Well, a second incendiary device was found on the initial sweep of the first one, and so we can even explain that one off. And I thought, oh, wow, that's actually very like. What do they call it? Deep state government stuff there with with unit doing that. But I thought, it almost justifies it, makes it necessary.
And far
The
more believable
Americans-
and easy to write off than what the U.S.
The
did.
Americans decide, well, we're just going to call it hallucinogenic chemical attack.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, that sounds like us.
Well, to be fair, also, it was a much bigger target in the U.S. than it was in the U.K.
It certainly was, yeah. That
A little
would've
harder to blow
would
up
have been
the
harder to blow up
entire
that
moon.
hotel.
Yeah.
I mean,
And keep it contained.
one of these
Right.
things is you go, oh, okay. And one of these things is, man, this is a conspiracy theory. There's just all kinds of nut job,
Yep.
and all I can think of is Close Encounters, anthrax. We need something scary. Okay, whatever. That's a cover-up. I don't buy that.
I was so glad to see Boygayev back, and I was so glad to see, although we had been tipped off that they were coming, Senora back. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, these are like old friends for me, because I really enjoyed them so much in Blood of Atlantis. And to see them back together, and then realize that they all have this lasting friendship. You are awful noisy tonight there.
He sure is.
We're talking about Cody the dog, so
Yeah, don't blame me for this one.
that wasn't Sean this time. But
Thank you.
To realize that their friendship has lasted even beyond the events of Blood of Atlantis, and that they've all still have somewhat contacts and stuff, and that their friendship will continue on into the future, because the brig making the comment about old friends past, and
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I loved the dropped bit about at no point in time did they nail down this was the first time we'd seen him since
Right.
that. So there's been obviously a couple of adventures maybe that could be slotted in between things, and then a couple more to come.
Well, I don't even know about adventures, but at least contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, something that I'm fine with them calling each other up and drinking a toast over the phone. That doesn't bother me. But I also like the idea that they keep, because Bergiev is just he's like the Soviet version of Lethbridge-Stewart. If this was G.I. Joe, he's the October Guard. He's just he's the counterpart. And I like the fact that he's off doing his thing. Lethbridge-Stewart's off doing his thing. But because they're in the same field,
Their roads
they're
merge.
going to
Yeah.
keep bumping into each other from
They
time
cross
to time.
paths frequently.
But yeah, he's such a fantastic, magnetic character. And any of his stuff was just like, not that any of it was bad, but I just
Right.
really, really enjoyed reading his.
Well, and pairing Anne with the Senora together in the past, and obviously they have a friendship beyond that continues forward also.
Based on that.
Yeah.
Based on their encounters
Yeah.
together. What they encounter in New Mexico. Yeah, and that was another thing that I oftentimes a flashback chapter will be inserted. And I'll think, okay, here we go. We got all this exhibition. We've got to, get us caught back up to what happened in the past. And sometimes that's a bit taxing to me. It's not detrimental usually, but it's sometimes a bit taxing. But taking us back to what happened in New Mexico for that chapter, I thought was another one that was very. As soon as it started, I was engrossed. Okay, what's
yeah.
Anne going here to do? Why is Senora? Why is she ask her to come here? What's going to happen? And then just to have that whole thing play out where they find the wall that's like a perception filter essentially, and Anne manages to take it down, and they get through, and then all of a sudden the CIA shows up and they're coming through, and they go through into the catacombs and find the child, and escape out through the side, bury the child, so that I thought, wow, this is really some amazing, as you said, it's cinematic writing. I could visualize everything because the picture was painted so well with words that I really didn't have any sort of time that I thought, okay, I've got to really stretch my imagination to figure this out. It was all presented there, and it was that chapter there I especially liked. So it was nice for that to kind of be capstoned at the end of the book, where that's where we end up back to with the terrorists, and already being familiar enough with all of this and knowing what happened before. I thought that was really well done.
Initially, it felt kind of like we got a bonus short story in the middle of the book.
Yes.
But then it tied in perfectly to the end, and
Yes.
it came back in just the right way.
The globetrotting in this one is really fairly outstanding. Not that the Lethbridge-Stewart series has shied away from that, but generally the books are kind of set in one location
Yeah.
with maybe some wide-ranging
Sure.
implications, but it's this is here. And so for this
in
one,
Australia, it's in Australia. If it's in New York, it's in New York.
Right.
If it's in London, it's in London, or Scotland, or
and
the
so
UK.
for this one to go from London to Paris to Russia to Geneva,
Why Austria was thrown in there.
we've never seen the brig in Geneva. We've always heard about it. We've never actually seen it. And then to come to the States, and it was just, this was so cool.
Keep talking.
And the other part of it that really floored me was how well America was captured.
Yes, yeah.
All of the scenes that were in America felt like they were in America. They didn't feel like a British author trying to kind of fake America, which, can happen.
I had to message Simon and ask him. I said, "You're not a displaced American, are you?" And he did explain to me that I think maybe it was a former wife. He was married to a woman who was American, and they actually he lived here for a little while in Oklahoma and Texas mostly. So, in fact, when he's writing the one scene about the truck going through on 122 and passing a IHOP and a Sonic, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's writing in my backyard here."
Yeah,
because this is stuff that's familiar to me because that's Midwest stuff. And so I had to ask him. I said, "Surely you're a displaced American?" And he said, "No," but he was married to a woman that was from America.
Well, he got the details right, which is just one of those things, because there's nothing that pulls you out of a book than knowing those details and not getting them right. Yeah. And then you go, "Oh, well," all of a sudden it starts to, no, this was all right there. The other part of it was the time frame. It felt like 1981. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of overt, Ready Player One references.
No.
To it.
Yeah,
but it just jived. It just, everything felt right. And Lethbridge-Stewart's constant struggles with, if only I had Google,
right?
And picking up a pager, and just little things of that nature that were like, not
being able to use a smartphone, or I thought that was really clever.
So those were little touches that I really enjoyed.
That's the neat thing about setting this story in the Briggs' future past, is this doesn't go all the way back to the 60s and 70s. This is typically, for the most part, set in 1980. Well, it is set in 81, and it's a time in his life where it's just as he's taking the next step in his life. But the cool thing about that, on top of that, is we've started this story in near present day and used a device to pull him back to 1981. So he clearly has already lived an entire life, and to make reference to, I sure wish, I had a smartphone. No, I've got to go to the payphone and make this call. Or, sure wish I had Google. Those kind of references are like, it brings you back into the fact that, especially since you get so involved in the story being 1981, it does bring you back to the fact that, this is the Brig from the future that is reliving a lot of these events that he doesn't remember. And so it's able to keep you grounded in the fact that there is a bigger picture here. There is a bigger story arc that's going on.
Yeah, and while I appreciated those little aspects, I do wish that part would have played more into the story. The main thrust of the 1981 story was a strong enough story for me that we could have done it without the Laughing Gnome tacked on, but
I don't think it is tacked on. I think it's a brilliant way to give everybody something that's coming.
Obviously,
down the line.
It's a through thread that we're going to revisit.
I think it's a great through thread. I think
I need to see it through before I can decide what I think of it, because I wish there was, aside from the one thing of him being able to remember about his friend's son, it had no impact on the story.
Although it was necessary. In fact, it was very important that he met him at the funeral, or that he had come up to him and talked to him at the funeral, because that did plant that information that he needed when he did go back in the past to know that kid was, or that young man was on the ship.
Yeah, I just wish that it had even more included, like his memory, the fact that he could remember what was happening. I know it's foggy memory.
I was fine with
it. That was my one little sticking point, but I know that's also because it's a long game aspect of things.
I kind of come down between you, but I agree, Keith, that it wasn't tacked on necessarily, but Lethbridge-Stewart sure adapted quickly.
Well, and
I
for
can't
the longest time without a reference to the fact that he was his past self, his future self was in his past self. Like there was no mention for it for at least 100 pages.
Oh, sure.
And then oh yeah, that's happened too. Yeah,
Right.
and it just,
Well, I think we needed the constant reminders, though, of where we'd come from.
I guess there wasn't enough concert reminder for me because I went 100 pages
Well,
without,
I think
and I had to.
I think though that if you had reminded enough, it could have been a crutch in order to give Lethbridge-Stewart a little too much foreknowledge on things. Although, like it's well said in this, is that he has a lot of foggy memory. He doesn't remember this, and so I think that's important there too, as to why they're crafting this arc the way they are.
It works both ways because, like I said, he adapts almost too quickly to being thrown into his past. But at this point in his life, he's seen it all, done it all. So
Right.
there's no surprises anymore for him. It's just like, okay. And so on the one hand, it was kind of like, well, I'm glad we didn't have to slog through, because we're with it. Yeah, okay. You know, you threw him into the past, got it, and we can move on. And we're not having to suffer through pages of exposition where he's putting that piece of the puzzle together.
Right.
But on the other hand, while yes, it is a through line, and it's obviously the device. I mean, it's called the Laughing Gnome. He's in the title, so we know this thing is going to be, instrumental to the series of books. It also did feel a little tacked on in that regard, that it didn't have a whole lot to do with that. And I kind of agree with you. I'll have to see it out through the end to kind of figure out if the framing work. Do we need the Trial of the Time Lord to enjoy the three individual stories? Is kind of.
Especially since the series jumps around anyways.
Yeah.
I
think that's why
if it were a series that didn't jump around in time in the Briggs timeline,
I disagree.
telling stories,
I disagree
think
with you. I disagree with you 100%. The only thing that really kind of jumps around are the short stories that they've done in between. The story arc of the novels has been linear. It has been from It's been from
the novels.
Web of Fear to.
We're still pre-invasion.
Dispatch,
at this point.
There you go, pre-invasion. That's what it is, and I think that's what this. If you were to take, and I don't think people are as fanatical about it. I hope they are, but I don't think people are as fanatical about the series that they read every single short story like we have. So we're used to that jump around thing.
True.
But if you were just to take a series of 3 or 4 books and put them together in an arc like this, and have one set in 81, and have one obviously that's coming up that's going to be set back in the 60s again, because we're revisiting the Web of Fear, I think that this is immensely necessary for especially a casual reader of the series, so they realize that this is why we're being pulled around in time.
I guess we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, I hopefully the payoff.
It's all
But back to this though.
That's the question: is it is the Laughing Gnome an entity? Is it a malevolent force that's doing this on purpose, or is it just one of these random artifacts that happens to trigger? And I don't know.
Right.
I'm curious, and we'll find out when we get there.
Right.
So. I loved how this had. Maybe I think one of the reasons I think I like this so much is it included elements or shades of things that I'm very big a fan of, like the fact that he was in his younger self in the past. Oh, that's kind of a quantum leap idea. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We've got the globe trotting and very James Bondy kind of action scenes going on. Okay, yeah, cool. And then we've got these bones. So, okay,
got an Indiana Jones aspect.
You're doing Crystal Skull correctly. That's kind of what it feels like. You've got a skeleton and his bones and psychic powers. All right, yeah, cool. So, I just those little, drawing from those elements is like, yeah, this is right up there with stuff that's.
I think one of the things that I sort of feared a little bit about this story was we were setting up a large cast of characters, especially since we've got 2 cells.
I had a lot of trouble keeping track of who was who.
I didn't, because I think they did a good job of having Vasily and the one guy, and I think it was Earl. I can't remember the other guy's name, but anyway, and then the redheaded, who really was kind of peripherally connected. She wasn't quite connected yet. Right. But I think by dispatching the 2 characters, Bonnie's in the Bonnie's the Bonnie's the redhead.
No,
Bon-
Bonnie's
no,
the artist.
Bonnie is see now you're already cross pollinating, and maybe
See,
that's
that's
why
the
you're
problem.
confused.
That's confusing.
But having Vasily, no, I'm talking about the European cell. We had Vasily, the henchman guy that projected the barbed wire, and then we had Big Earl who was in the garage, and then the redhead, and that was pretty much. There might have been a girl that was driving the getaway car, but she didn't stick around for long.
She showed back up at the end, but I think
Did
she's
she? No, I think
she's the one that
Oh
escaped
no, that was
at the end.
Valentina. That's right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that her? Okay, all right. So anyway, so we have those, but we dispatched 2 of those characters, and then the redheaded gal comes in and saves Vasily to kind of cement her place in this group. And I thought that was great. Get rid of these guys so I don't have to worry about too many characters on this cell, because now you're already starting to introduce me to Seth and his group, who has Bonnie, who's the artist, and I thought Valentina was with them though.
Maybe.
Anyway, you've got that group that are going to end up meeting up later, but I thought that was great that he narrowed down the characters sort of as we went.
Well, I agreed
so
that
I
it was
think
good that he narrowed down the characters. I just still couldn't keep track of who they were and where they were.
Because really only Vasily and the redhead. Why can't I remember the redhead's name?
Romana.
Ramola. She shows up. Obviously he and her show up in the U.S. when they're connecting up with these other guys, and there might have been one other character, but I don't remember. But they were so peripheral that it didn't matter. But shows up with the other group. But we've also then, before we get to the Platte, we've dispatched of Seth in the city with Boygiev on the water tower, taking out those 2 characters. So I thought it was
a great ending.
It was really good to kind of pick off these characters in different locations before the big climactic battle on the Mesa, because I think what that did is it funneled the characters down so that there wasn't a lot of confusion, me wondering where the heck is this person that we've been talking about. All of those people are fleshed out really well before we get to the big battle on the Mesa, and there's only about half a dozen of them left, and then they're later obviously dispatched as well.
Yeah, once everyone converged together, I had no trouble keeping track of who was who.
Yeah,
it was just when they were dispersed.
But I think
everywhere else
that was the beauty
issue.
of picking them
And
off as we went. In
yeah,
different places.
I would agree
think
there.
That worked.
Yeah, I when the individual bits were coming in with, not only are they on different continents, but they're in different cities doing different things.
And then we get flashbacks of certain people.
And then coupled with the time jump, because sometimes you're getting a flashback to this story versus... It was a little disjointed, but the ones that were important had enough backstory that their names stuck. The ones that were unimportant, I kind of let slide, and then they were dispatched when it wasn't important.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Although, reading the Major picking up Vasily and hucking him off the edge of the Mesa is probably the most satisfying paragraph in the whole book, because it's so Boygiev. Yeah, get him. Just don't shoot him. No, throw him. Yeah. I don't know. I was a little bloodthirsty at that point.
I thought one of the interesting things was in the city before they get to the Mesa when they're making the drop off, and Boygiev was like, "Well, what'll be the sign?" He said, "Well, when the Brigadier's doing something that's not very Brigadier-like, that'll be the sign." And I thought, yeah, that's true.
Which on the surface sounds like okay.
Yeah.
But then the Brig turns it to his advantage by pointing the gun at his own head.
Yes,
He's not being coerced into it.
Because I kept thinking, what's he going to do? Is he going to like do something un-British, or is he going to do something? I'm trying to figure out what could he possibly do that would be un-Brig-like. And then, turning the gun towards his head as though he's
and
being
pretending
forced
to struggle
do
with it and doing all this, and the other guy realizes right at the last moment.
And telling Seth at the same time what he's doing. I could just turn the gun towards my head. And I was like, oh, that's so brilliant. That was so well done.
That was a fantastic reveal. Because you were, I didn't know. I was like, oh man, Anne's not there. Of course, Anne wasn't there. There was a hologram. Sure. How are we going to get out of this? What are you going to do now? How are you going to signal? Oh.
Well, and even Romala, whatever her name is.
I think it's Ramallah.
Ramallah. With her causing the water tower to seem like it's falling over, and Boygiev being able to overcome that, realizing. Of course, he early on was very much planning the idea of, we're not really, this isn't real. This is in the attack in the
in the hotel.
car park in the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he already had kind of surmised the reality of things, even though he still couldn't quite see it. And so to have him be able to sort of overcome that long enough to be able to do the mission that he needed to do on that water tower in New Mexico, I think was well done. I thought that was believable to me.
Well, and the genius of setting the hotel on fire.
Yeah.
That, okay, we're surrounded by barbed wire, we can't get out, what are we going to do? Well, it's a mental projection. Yeah, but we believe enough in it that it's, okay, so what do we do? We set the hotel on fire. And I'm going, why would you add fire to mental barbed wire? Oh, because it set off the alarm and it broke his concentration.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
genius.
Yeah.
He's such a cool character.
Well, and for a story that includes so much mental deception, I really like the fact that they introduced those two CIA characters, who I never fully trusted if they were CIA or if they were part of these terrorists. And I think that was intentional to make you not sure to trust them, because we know who we trust, and everybody else is suspect.
That's what I liked about that.
And then
but
they wound up being trustworthy, and I
think
like that.
Ultimately, though,
it
my
wasn't a
problem with
deception.
that is I didn't get enough of who they are, what they were.
I kept confusing them for terrorists.
They
too.
sort of alluded to the fact that they were the two in the chase van that went after the because they recognized that I'm the chase van, I'm supposed to follow this truck, even though the rest of the convoy is going on. But I think my problem was they went there and they gave the pertinent information to the Brig and Boyaev and Chess, which I liked Chess. I loved his character as well. But the problem I had with that was it was like they came there, they gave them the pertinent information that they needed, but they, and maybe very much an American CIA way, said, we can't be involved in this kind of thing. And part of it, and I think it was told to me enough, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it gave me the impression that the reason they couldn't be connected to it was because they were part of the experiment, or reason why the experiments were done on these people. Is that what I got out of that?
I kind of got that impression
okay,
too.
so maybe that came across enough.
It was twofold, because when they're in the chase with the truck being diverted off the highway, the boss of the CIA operation, and they're radioing back and forth going, dude, the truck left the highway. He's like, no, it isn't.
No,
it's
right
there.
behind us.
At the end of that chase sequence, he makes the comment about what idiots they are because they're wearing their sunglasses at night, and just things like that. But then that comes back around in the conversation at Chess's house, because they've got
They're
sunglasses
still wearing
on,
the sunglasses,
and that's what prevented them from being duped by the illusion. Is whatever happened, whatever the polar filter was, that it blocked that out, so they didn't see it.
I got that.
But the boss of the CIA operation, it took me, even after reading it, it took me a couple more chapters before it settled in that he was now the vice president.
Oh, okay.
That he has now, since that
okay,
happened,
see,
that little interlude that we got with the vice president giving a speech about Chicago,
that's
it's that
why,
guy.
Okay, that makes sense. And that why they point out the fact that he can't be compromised because, number one, of his position, and he's got kids and he has a wife, and
so
he's
yes,
very
they
high
were
profile
probably
now.
involved in
okay.
these experiments, and we really can't screw it up for him now.
Gotcha. Okay, then that completely fixes that for me, because I kept wanting more from that.
It also kind of comes across as you guys are foreign operatives on our soil, but we're going to let you handle this.
Right.
So here's what you need, and we'll be...
Which is very un-American too, though. So, but that works for me as to why they would relinquish that.
It very much comes across as should you or any of your IMF team be caught or killed?
Yes.
Well, you're a foreign agent, so we're going to sweep that under the rug too.
Yeah.
Part of the mass hallucination. There was a Russian agent here. Maybe he was involved. Yeah,
We've got a cover story. Impossible.
Yeah.
I was going to say this story was a little more Mission Impossible than even James Bondy to my opinion. Which was still a good thing. Was still a great thing.
Which was nice. It was kind of different from we've had kind of James Bond capers previously. It was nice to have a more Mission Impossible style.
Well,
the John Peel one was very James Bond.
I think
with
that
the grandfathers.
I think that also kind of works to its favor that the earlier 70s stuff really feels more James Bond, and rightfully so. The 80s, the newer, the more modern stuff feels a little more Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I think that comes through because of those different eras.
Yeah, you're right. It's a much better analogy that way.
I just really, really enjoyed this story. And what do you guys think? Anything else about this before we move into the epilogue, which I think is kind of its own thing as well? But just some really good writing, just some really
some
good,
great action, some great descriptions, and
it's never boring either.
No.
There's always something going on.
Well, and I used the term cinematic earlier, and I just keep going back to how much this just played out in my head. It just flowed, and considering how much action is in it, action's hard to write.
Sure.
It's a difficult thing, and it's to try and convey that. But at no point in time did I get, the sense of, I mean, I trucked through that train station when Alistair's chasing the redhead, and Patriot Games. It's kind of reminded me of that with the scene with the ponytail. And even the quiet moments where the one guy is sitting in the empty football stadium, just kind of enjoying his moment, and then he's going to have, or a baseball game, and he's going to have the game go on, and he's doing it all through mind power. It's like I can see that playing out. And when you're dealing with mental illusions and what people are seeing, how difficult is that to put down on paper and then convey that to the reader?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Because it is a visual idea, but it worked.
Yeah,
And it was through the whole book. At no point in time did I feel like the ball was dropped, or it was consistent through the whole thing. And just very wowed by that.
Yeah, I concur with 100%. I never struggled in my mind to be able to visualize anything because it was so well written. It was so well laid out for me that I could visualize it really, really easy. In fact, I was almost in that, very cinematic, because I could picture how I would have composed this shot
Yeah.
for the film. It goes down to that.
Yeah, when you're directing it in your head as you go, I mean, that's
exactly.
more impressive than even some of the Big Finish that we've listened to, where they have the benefit of sound effects and actors and different things like that. This is just words on a page, but this did such a good job of conveying all of it.
I would agree.
Epilogue. So we're back, and the brig asks to keep the
Wants to
statue,
keep the creepy gnome,
which I thought, no way in heck I would do that, but I can see the brigadier going, oh, this is important enough that I probably ought to hold on to this, especially having gone through what he did. But part of me kind of wonders if that was the brigadier, staunch military man saying, this shouldn't get in the wrong hands. I'm going to keep this, to make sure it gets into the right
crate it
hands.
up and ship it off to the vault later.
Yeah, put it in the vault later. Or is this a brigadier realizing, I got to a second chance at reliving some of my younger days, and so I had that in my back of my mind going, which way was the brig thinking when he did that? Because now he's very old. He's going back to the home. His days are behind him for the most part, and I had to wonder if it was a selfish effort to maybe attempt to do something like this again, but which to me is more intriguing than it being flat out realizing that the brig was being the brig and wanted to make sure that this didn't get in the wrong hands. So I kind of like the fact that I struggle with, I wonder which one it is. The other interesting thing is the fact that the bishops come to visit him, and this sets off what appears to be setting up the next book in the series. So, which I really liked too, that we were able to springboard right out of this book into what's coming in the next book, which I think is where they're going with this.
Yeah, that is, for me, that really helps the framing device.
Yeah, it helps
was,
it a lot.
Was the epilogue. Because at first it was like, we're back to this scary gnome. It's not... Ew, why would you keep that? Take a hammer to it. I could see doing that, but for me, I don't think there's much mystery in the brig. Maybe there's a part of him that would like to continue to relive some of his adventures and feel young again. I don't believe that's his ultimate. That's almost a little too for somebody that has walked the straight and narrow as frequently as the brig has. There's never a doubt in my mind that he's going to do the right thing for the right reasons, that he's never going to stray over into the wrong thing for the right reasons, even though they kind of imply
I think
that.
That's the problem with that, though. If you set up that, it makes him a little too infallible, and I think I like the idea of there being a little bit of possibility of fallibility.
Oh, very much. I mean, the way this one ends with the
Oh, with him shooting.
Yeah, because he shoots the person, and then there's kind of that lingering. Did this happen the first time or not?
Right.
That
was another thing that I liked about that.
He's just going to live with it, and it's like, okay, but again, it was the right decision at the right time.
Especially
and discussion that they have throughout the book of doing the right thing for the right reasons, or if it's the wrong thing for the right reasons,
Right.
the motives and what defines.
Oh, that was a fantastic
what
scene
you
between.
do. Yeah.
Was it this book that said something about sometimes you blow up a underground
Bury the reptiles.
bury the reptiles?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought back to that. I thought, yeah, that was another situation where, of course, now he blamed Geneva for that, but he blamed the brass for that, but that was ultimately his choice. So I thought that was neat that something that maybe the series so far hasn't addressed is some of those what I have called in the past inconsistencies with the character we've seen on screen. That this was one of those times where I felt like, okay, there paints a picture of the brig that we sometimes got in the series, and I think that worked really well to tie those together, and especially make that callback to that.
Yeah, well, and as much as we disagreed with it, because I remember when we reviewed it, Keith and I think were very incensed and angry with the brig at that point.
Yeah.
For making that call, but putting yourself in the brig's shoes, it's the right call to make. Mm-hmm. His job is to defend England, and the reptiles living under our feet. Nah, bury him. That's you can't fault him for the logic behind it.
But you can apply that to Harriet Jones too, blowing up the Sycorax ship as it ran away.
I never thought she was absolutely in the wrong too.
Guilty. I'm the same way. It's like, not.
The Silurians gave me more reason to like them than Sycorax did.
Yeah, well, that's
not the wrong call.
As far as the gnome goes, I didn't go that direction with my thinking in it at all. I thought that the gnome had a kind of hold on the brig.
Oh, I didn't.
That it was kind of a.
Well, there's a third element to it.
He's compelled to keep it because of whatever power this gnome has.
Wow, yeah,
not even a mental thought
like a
process of him.
Thought,
That's what I took with.
Wow,
took away
that's another cool. That's what I like. I don't want that in an entire book, but I want a element to happen where you have so many different scenarios that could be put into that situation. And I think that's what I liked about this epilogue is it made me think of those two things, and then now you've added that third layer on top of that of what's going on here.
Plus, it also kind of adds a bit of malevolence to the gnome.
Well, it's totally the great intelligence. It's trapped in the body of a guard gnome.
Laughing about it.
I just assumed it was because he knew the bishops were coming over for tea.
And he was going to give them obviously, well, we don't know. Is Bishop the brig at this time? Is he still serving? I don't know.
I don't know if he's retired.
I remember
they called him brigadier, but they obviously still hold the titles.
I remember that we had one short story where
the two brigadiers
came into play.
But I don't think Alistair was in the home yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was. But
at
he's still referred
he wasn't
to as the brigadier
wheelchair
as well.
bound at that point. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Bishop's still serving or not. But
he would be the right person to get.
Yeah, he and Anne would be the right
to
people to get it to whoever's in charge now.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, clearly it's Kate. Take this to my daughter.
Yeah.
She won't listen if it comes from me.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule next.
Shouldn't have to look this up because there's not a lot. I mean,
there's not much on the schedule.
There's one more
tomorrow.
week before the show comes back. So,
and next week happens to be. Nobody's going to throw it out there.
A 400th anniversary?
Epiversary.
Oh, I had forgotten.
Really?
Yeah, I really had. I was more thinking of we're doing a fun and games episode. That's what I'm excited about.
We are going to have fun and we are going to play games. And it happens to be our 400th.
400 is just a number, though. Really,
it's just a number.
It's just a number.
It speaks to the wonderful listeners that we have, and our entirely too pig-headed stubbornness to quit.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. I think it speaks to our endurance more than anything. But yes.
Oh, that's a good word. I like that better than pig-headed.
Luckily, we have listeners out there too that have helped us motivate us to endure.
So yeah, we're gonna do some Doctor Who Flux and review that, and then we're also going to throw in the Titan Comics Road to the 13th Doctor, 3 issues.
Yes.
3-issue series, and we're going to pave our own road to episode 401, which will be our review of The Woman Who Fell to Earth and the debut of Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor.
Don't forget, next week we are giving away some prizes on the show, and so what we need you to do is we need you to qualify to win those prizes. So what we're doing is we have set it up in such a way that if you are following us on social media or liking us on social media or things like that, you'll be able to get chances to enter. And this is a little reminder. We started this last week, but we haven't seen anybody email us with their entries. So,
admittedly,
Sean,
somebody was a little late posting the official rules.
Sean, how can people enter to win?
Well, if you were to like and follow us on Facebook, the Traveling the Vortex Facebook page, that's worth an entry. If you share something that we've posted on our Facebook page, that's worth an entry. So there's a very quick opportunity to get several, just keep sharing those.
And if you already like us,
it still counts.
It still counts.
And we'll explain how in just a minute. You can follow us on Twitter. You can retweet the Epiversary tweet, which has not happened yet. I'm formulating what the Epiversary tweet should be. It'll probably say, retweet this and it'll win.
You'll know.
You'll know when you see it.
If it's something very un-Sean-like, you'll...
If I point the gun at my own head. You can follow us on Instagram. You could join the Goodreads Book Club. That one's worth 2 entries. Sign up to support us on Patreon is worth 2 entries. Or the big one.
That should be more than 2.
You think?
Yeah.
Review us on iTunes or any other host site. So if you submit a review to iTunes or submit a review to our Facebook or submit a review to, what's another one they can do?
Google Play Store.
That's worth 2 entries, but maybe we should make that in the Patreon 3.
I think Patreon should be 3. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to change that to be 3 then. And then just send us an email, which, of course, you can do through...
That's the most important thing is to send us an email to tell us that you've done this, because that'll be the only way that we can track and see, because we could go to Facebook and look at everybody that has liked us and say, okay, all those people have an entry. But what we want to do is put a little bit of the onus on you for the entry, so it's a 2-part process. Do one of those things or all of those things, and then send us an email to validate or verify that you've done it.
So just send us an email and say, hey, guys, I already like you on Facebook, and I forwarded this post this week. And, whatever you've done, just list it. And that gives us a way to be able to double-check and verify. Trust but verify. And then we will throw all those entries into the glossy fishbowl, and we'll draw them out.
I better get a glossy fishbowl.
Keith, where should they send those emails to us if they want to validate their entry?
So if you're already on our Facebook page, there is a send us an email button, and that will help you formulate an email to feedback at travelingthevortex.com.
I'm not even going to edit those.
Apparently I can't play footsie with you while you're talking.
It's too distracting, Sean. Or if you're on our website, just go fill out the send us feedback tab, or send it directly to feedback at travelingthevortex.com.
And that way there's a paper trail. And we should probably put a stop. I mean, I don't mind if you want to send several emails. If you want to go, well, I already like you on these places, and then later in the week send another one and said, okay, I did this, and this as well.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely
fine. We'll add them together. But we should probably put a deadline, because we don't want to be throwing entries into the bucket when we're recording. So we should probably...
Saturday probably should be our deadline, so that we have all day Sunday to formulate all the entries.
So Saturday midnight, whatever time zone you're in, and we'll get up Sunday morning.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Saturday midnight going into Sunday.
So we're talking about Saturday the 29th at midnight, wherever you're located. So if you're on the East Coast of the U.S., it's midnight for you. If you're on the West Coast of the U.S., it's midnight for you. In the U.K., Greenwich Mean Time, it's your deadline is for you. So, yeah, go ahead and send those in and let us know.
And remember, these are epic prizes of game show proportions. We've got
No, they're not. But
we've got comics,
We've got prizes.
books, we've
We
got
have prizes, that's
DVDs, we've got there's swag.
yeah, and we want to give a lot of it away. So very
It's
cool.
all thanking you for hanging in there with us.
If you need to know where you can leave reviews, well, guess what? You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe to us on Google Play Store. We're also on TuneIn and Mixer and various other places. So go look us up. There's also some links on our website to those. And, of course, our Patreon link is there as well. So if you want your bonus 3 entries and you'd like to support us on Patreon, it's twofold. It gets something for you and it gets something for us as well, because all of the money raised through Patreon does go right back into this podcast 100%. And again, thank you to all those that are already supporting us.
Very
Anything
much so.
else we need to talk about this week before we close this one?
If you need proof, we just paid for another year of the server. So
All right, very good. Well, if that's going to do it for this time, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
Now I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.